Okay. Calling to order the August 5th, 2019 Transportation Committee meeting. All members are present. Councilman Dempsey Lambert is on his way in the back room, making his way in right now. Where is Councilman? Oh, and you're right. Councilman Dawson is not here tonight. If we would, Councilman Cluat, will you lead us in the invocation, followed by the pledge?
Everyone please stand. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Once again, as we come through some bad weather, we ask that you look upon everyone in the parish, take care of them. We ask that everyone look to their left and their right, and let's take care of the elderly and those disabled that can't help themselves. We ask that you continue to take us through the hurricane season without harm. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record reflect that Councilman Dempsey Lambert is here. How you doing, buddy?
See, I'm charging my pad over here.
Okay. We have a public comment period. If you'd like to speak on an item, please fill out a card, hand it in to Darla. You'll get your 3 minutes to speak on that item number. As long as you have it in before the item gets going, you'll be fine. Chairman's Committee report, I don't have anything to add at this meeting. Moving on to number 5, acceptance of the minutes of the July 8th, 2019 meeting as written.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Johnson and a second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any discussion? No objections? Great. So moved. Item number 6, roads to be considered for acceptance into the parish maintenance system as follows. Mr. DeArmond, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank y'all. I'm back before you tonight to accept some roads in the parish maintenance system for Bell Savon subdivision. You want to do it like we normally do, one at a time?
Yes.
Okay, Bell Savon Avenue, 2,955.21 feet.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any objections? None. So moved.
Bell Journey Avenue, 1,067.24 feet.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any objections? None. So moved.
Bell Wren Drive, 303 feet.
Motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Todd Lambert
Second.
and a second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Any objections? None. So moved.
Bell Mere Drive, 150 feet.
So moved.
We have a motion by,
Second.
and we have a motion and a second. Any objections? None. So moved. Thank you all very much. Item number 7, update on the implementation of infrastructure development districts.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, delighted to be here to talk to you about what we're doing in compliance with the ordinance that you guys passed in January this past year. We have implemented a process to create the infrastructure development districts. I might add that, this requirement is based on the final plat. When the final plat is being prepared, they need to have either dedicated the streets as private, or they need to create the infrastructure development district, as part of the final plat process. We have about 3 projects that have come forward with us through the planning department since the implementation of this ordinance, and they have basically created private streets, right? So we don't need to do the IDD for them. We have 4 projects that are in process right now that we are processing the infrastructure development district application. We have a petition from them, and we're moving forward with it. Darla has a staff report that I am going to present to the full council when we move forward with this, and I'm just using this as an example for you. The ordinance was passed January 17th, 2019. The sample you got is the Highland Trace subdivision. It's got about 1,920 linear feet of streets. There are 60 lots. It's only one phase, so it'll be basically a one-phase project. And the average house price is about $325,000. This is an important consideration when we're setting up the IDD, and I'll go through the tables with you. You'll see on the second page, we have a petition There's a legal description. These are all requirements for the IDD. There's a plat of the district, and then I have 3 tables that we can go to. You'll see the second, third, fourth, and fifth pages of the petition. The fifth page is the legal description. Then there's a plat of the map, right, or a plat of the project. I want to kind of go over this in quick order to let you know that there are 2 processes, or 2 different ways of creating the IDD. One is to place a millage on the property, and the other is to do an assessment district. Now, the law that was written in Baton Rouge and approved in the basis of this requires that if you do an assessment district, it has to be based on linear feet of frontage for the property. And we have some issues with that because of the way that these properties, and you'll see, John, if you could turn the overhead on, I'll show what the problem is. All of these lots basically are pretty much the same in size. They vary in width a little bit, but because it's front footage, this one that's at the corner right here has 2 frontages. So we'd have to include both frontages on this property and calculate its assessment, even though the house that's going to be placed here is probably the same size as the other ones. If you look at the other side and you go to the cul-de-sac, we have the opposite situation where we have some very small frontages, and we'd have to add those frontages up, even though the house that's going to be placed here is pretty much the same size as what would appear on the other lots. So what we chose to do is to use the millage route, and we're gonna apply a millage to the IDDs because we think it's a fair way of doing this, right? On page, the first table, John, if we can do the overhead again, please. On table 1A, and this is the reason why I had the house price, and we're getting this information directly from the developer. Average house price is about $325,000 for this particular project. They have a $75,000 homestead exemption, which leaves you a value of $250,000. By law, we cannot assess anything more than 15 mills. So at 15 mills, that would allow us collecting $375 per house per year for this particular development, right? So what I've calculated here is 30 lots, and I'll get into the next table for you to show why we've done that. And we can collect in 1 year for 30 lots, $11,250. On the second table I have, table 1B, we have the same initial calculations, but we're levying at an amount of 7 mills instead of, we can collect $175 per lot, per house, per year. But I've included all of the lots in the project, so we've got a full 60. So we can collect $10,500. The next one, the next table you have is table 2, and it shows the cost, for doing the different repair works. And I wanted to thank Tacy and her group, who provide us some really good information on this. This is the cost assumption. We can do a crack seal per linear foot, a rejuvenation per square foot, a texture seal per square foot, and a mill, patch, and overlay per linear foot. And these are the unit costs per. And what I've got here on the right side of this is the work effort over a 20-year period. So we're assuming in year 2, we're probably only going to be doing crack seal. In year 7, we're going to do a rejuvenation, and we're also going to do a texture seal. And then in year 14, we'll basically do the same thing. And then in year 20, we're going to have to do a mill, a patch, and an overlay on the entire road section, all right? So if you see between year 7 and 14, there's an inflation factor that we plugged in here, and that's why the numbers are different, right? If you go to the table 3, it'll show you basically the collections that we're going to do over the year. So in year 2, we got the crack seal at $754. But in years 1, 2, and 3, we're going to collect this 15 mills because we're probably not going to have build out in the subdivision at that time. But year 4 through 20, we're assuming that the houses, the whole subdivision can be built out, right? So this just shows you how much money we're going to collect each year. the balance, what it's gonna cost during those years that I described in the previous table, and this is how we're gonna basically set up the district. So I'm open to any questions you might have. So I'll be presenting this to the council because the formation of the district requires 2 public hearings, right? So what we'd like to do is introduce and have the first public hearing at the first meeting, and then the second meeting, we'd have another public meeting and approve the ordinance. It has to be done by ordinance, by the way.
Yes. Councilman Lambert.
Jerome, communication between the developer and the homeowner to let them know that when they buy this lot, they're not gonna be blindsided and, okay, I
Well,
have to come up with this money.
Currently, there's no legal process to do that. You know, we can require them to give a notice, you know, the developer to the primary home buyer. But what that leaves is that the secondary purchaser, you know, if I buy a house and then I sell it to another person, you know, there's nothing there. But it will be a recorded document at the parish, right? So that document will be recorded and it will appear in all the escrow papers and everything else that you have to sign as a home purchaser, right?
There's no way of communicating up front that this is a
Well, we can,
private or, you know,
We
village.
can.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I can.
I would
can-
recommend that, you know, they need to know up front before they buy a home that, you know, this,
I can make a
stipulations
request to the
there.
developer that they fill out some kind of a form, a notification form, saying that they're now gonna be part of an infrastructure development district that's gonna be paying for the streets, right?
okay,
I'll work with the development committee on that and see what we can come up with,
thank you.
right? Yeah.
Councilwoman Cazzo.
So Jerome, how are we communicating to developers what the advantages and disadvantages of either the IDD or the private street are? And how do you see that? I mean, personally, I think, you know, without too much education on this, that the IDD would be the way to go. But it worries me that I hear that quite a number of these developers are taking these streets private. And so I worry that if they do not have strong, active homeowners associations, they're going to be caught in a trap down the road where they don't have the money to pay to have their streets repaired. And what's the position of the parish at that time?
Well, you're right. I mean, if they do decide to go private, then the streets are gonna have to be maintained by the HOA. And it's gonna be the private citizens, the private property owners within that subdivision that's gonna be responsible for the maintenance of the streets. You know, in terms of an advantage one way or the other, you know, I'll leave that up to them to decide, you know, because it's gonna be a home sales price. They're gonna have to disclose this, obviously, as we talked about, to the home purchaser. It's gonna be an added tax on their property tax bill. So, you know, how they wanna go is up to them. But you are right in one sense that we're having a lot of problems with HOAs right now that have gone out of business, you know. So we're dealing with that on the drainage side because they're not maintaining some of the drainage that's in the subdivision. So this is an assurance, basically, that we are gonna be collecting money in order to maintain the roads, right? But then again, we take them over, they're part of a parish system.
If I may
So
continue.
I don't know
Mr.
if
Chair.
I adequately addressed your
Yes,
question.
so my concern is, they have a private street, they don't collect the money they need, they have potholes, and nothing is getting repaired. How are we going to be able to say, I'm sorry, that was your choice, or your developer's choice?
Right.
And is there a mechanism at some point in time for a group of citizens in a subdivision to say, look, our developer made a big mistake here? And how do we get involved in this where you collect this at the end of every year on our tax,
Right.
on our tax bill, as opposed to some kind of assessment all of a sudden that they get for, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars divided among, you know, maybe 45 homes to repair their streets. That's a piece. I don't quite understand, and I've had more than one developer speak to me about what he should do. And I can assure you, I have said, who in your subdivision is going to be qualified to determine who's the right company to fix your streets. If you do the infrastructure development district, the parish is going to be responsible for making sure this is bid work,
Right.
that the quality is correct.
Right.
Who's going to be responsible for that in your HOA? Who's going to make those decisions? I mean, most people in an HOA, there's rarely a contractor in there, okay? Highway contractor. So, I'm very concerned. I supported this. I like the idea, but I am very concerned that we might not be giving ample direction to some of these developers about the real risk of having this driven by their HOA.
Right. Well, it is going to be the HOA's responsibility, and if they decide later on, 10, 15 years down the road, that the streets are deteriorated, and they come to the parish, remember, you passed a supplemental ordinance that was attached to this that says if they wanted to come back and become public streets, it has to be a unanimous vote of the council in order to do that. So that's going to be a tough nut to crack for some of these HOAs, you know, so they're going to have to reconstitute the HOA if it's gone defunct, and they're going to have to do something within their own means in order to repair the roads.
How are we, to finish my thought, how are we educating these developers about what, because look, they don't care. When they're gonna take the money and run. Okay, now, I don't mean any insult to them, that's just how you do it. So, whenever those phone calls start coming in, it's not gonna be to them.
Right.
It's gonna be to their councilman.
Right, absolutely.
So, what do we do to ensure that they fully understand the burden that they are putting on their homeowners association going forward?
Well, the ones we've dealt with so far, the ones that have put in the petition are pretty sophisticated developers, and they kind of know the ramifications, I'm sure. We've talked to them, we gave them, you know, the option, the private streets, IDD, and they've gone the IDD route. On the others, they're pretty sophisticated developers, and they've gone the private street route. So, I mean, that's all we can tell them.
Okay, I'm sure you're educating them as best you can.
We are trying, yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
One quick response.
Yes, go ahead.
And Jerome, from what Ms. Terry was saying, you know, we have, probably everybody up here has a road that's private, and we have a lot of complaints with them private roads, and have been trying to get them into the system, and they just don't meet criteria and stuff like that. And it is very tough, and it's a hardship on the residents that live on these roads because they're deteriorated. And you say HOAs, they're known to just vanish and disappear. There's nothing controlling them. They have law saying you have to have a HOA.
Right.
And we have several of them subdivisions out there that, you know, no HOAs are there, you know, and to keep up anything, so.
Right.
It's, Terry's got a good point, and I just, hopefully we could put some kind of bite in there to help this.
Okay.
I have a question very similar to Councilman Lambert's question, but I guess going the opposite direction, leaning more towards what Councilwoman Cazzo was saying, was how do we ensure that the developer is communicating to a homeowner when they have a private street that they're going to be responsible? Do they communicate the costs that are involved, the long-term costs?
We don't get involved with HOAs.
So I guess my
HOAs
question
is
is,
a responsibility of the developer and his communication with the home buyer.
so there's a potential that they're not telling this to the, I mean, is there a potential that these developers are not telling the home buyers that this is a private street?
That's a possibility, but I'm sure that they're all telling them that there will be an HOA for the subdivision. I'm
Having
not
an
sure what
HOA is different.
I'm not sure what they're disclosing to the home buyer as to what the HOA's responsibilities are, but they're certainly disclosing what the dues will be. And you would anticipate the fact that they're calculating the road cost, the maintenance of roads, the maintenance of their drainage system, all of these things that are the responsibility of the HOA. Parks that are in the HOA, in the subdivision, are all part of their responsibility.
Have we seen any of the HOA tracks that these developers that are using the private roads?
I have not, and I've been advised by legal counsel that we as a parish can't get into any kind of a negotiation in terms of what's included in those and those type of things.
I agree. I'm just curious as to whether or not they're being forthright with their home buyers, because, I mean, it'd be a horrible surprise to go buy a home and then find out that they tell you the dues are only $100, and that's not even gonna cover everything.
Right, yep.
Maybe we need to look back and require that if you're going to have maybe this is possible, if you're going to have a private road, that you've got to disclose that to the home buyers, much like we're talking about with this system.
I will check with legal counsel on what we can do in those cases.
Yes.
But I know that we are limited in what we can do with the HOAs.
Yeah, I'm really more concerned about the home buyers in a private home, I'm sorry, with the private roads, than I am about these IDDs. I think these IDDs takes the burden off of every single taxpayer, puts it on that new subdivision,
Right.
and it ensures that it's maintained with a pavement preservation plan.
Right.
Whereas I know that I've talked to some homeowners in my district whose mother lives in another district, and this subdivision, the road's just falling apart, and there's nothing they can do about it, and they have about 40 houses, and they cannot raise the money to bring the road back up to standard, so that then we could possibly even take it into the system.
Right.
So they're in a terrible situation because their homeowner association fell apart.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Cazza?
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to double back. So can we create a disclaimer? I mean, I really think in every one of these subdivision plats, there needs to be a disclaimer that travels with that plat and with the purchase of every lot there, that, especially if they have chosen the route of private streets,
We-
that
we
this
do
is a
put-
private street.
We do put that on the plat now. All final plats have a notation on it that all the streets are private, and it's the responsibility of the homeowners through the HOA in order to maintain the roads.
Okay? So-
That notation is on the
Is on
plat
the plat.
So
right
if I
now.
can follow up with one other question. So will there be a maintenance, I take it from these charts that there's a maintenance schedule for roads that we take into an IDD. So,
Well, that's what I provided you in one of the tables in the back.
Right.
yeah. So why anybody would choose to go private is beyond me. I just think that's dangerous, and I think we need to discourage that, and so that these folks get the benefit of a maintenance schedule and of the bid process and all of the things that the parish has to offer, as opposed to a private street where who knows who's going to get that job and whether they're reliable or not.
Well, I think one of the things that we can do as staff is kind of reach out to the development community, Eric and I both, and kind of talk to them in terms of what their logic is behind this. You know, what's their selling point to the property owner? You know, there may be some economics that they're running on this we're not aware of. So I think we'll reach out to them.
I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right.
Councilman
Yeah,
Lambert?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jerome, I'm looking at the maintenance cost assumption. Is this all off of asphalt roads, or what about if we have a concrete?
Yeah, this is asphalt. These are asphalt assumptions.
So that's what I'm looking at the numbers here. That's, I mean, if we dealing with concrete, that's a lot,
It's going to be much
a
different.
lot more
yes.
expensive, and, it's just, I think we
Yeah.
need to have all of that, both the cost, both, always, that we could see that all the way through the tables here.
Absolutely. Yeah, this particular example I'm giving you is for the Highland Trace subdivision, which is
Sure.
coming forward right now, and those are asphalt streets.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Councilman Kulat? No need to run. Well, they're almost like twins.
Thank you much, Mr. Chair and committee. Real quick, on this subject, within my district, I don't have a lot of subdivisions, but I do have, we've had within 2 roads. One of them was Bayou Terrace. Councilman Todd Lambert has had that for years. That road's about 2 miles long. It ended up being a private road, and there was a lot of work, 4 and 5 administrations ago, to work with those folks, and they put a tax on them to take it in to the parish, improve it, bring it up to standards. And since that tax has gone down, and so now they're part of the parish, and we've had to rework that road about 4 years ago. Directly across Highway 22, we have River Highlands, excess of 2 miles. The first 3/8 of a mile, whatever's in Livingston Parish, then it goes into Ascension. Was a big, beautiful concrete road. This road is private. It has been private. Some of you guys that's been with us for a while have seen me come in front and try to get this road within, into the parish, and we had to have inspections. We couldn't get things. But it was proposed at the original plat for that road to be parish road, okay? At that time, the developer wouldn't give up another 5 or 10 feet, okay? And he wrote it in, signed it in blood that it would be a private road forever, okay? Now they've rotated the homeowners. So 90% of the homeowners are better that live down there, not the original homeowners. And they have bought in through every real estate company possible that's ever shuffled land over there with no knowledge rather, of it being a private road, other than it might have been an obscure print in the bottom of a 40-page document somewhere. And I've had to fight that and try to help them. I haven't had any success in helping them. And we've had Mr. Shake Snyder, he had that district for a while, and now it's Mr. Dawson. But I'm just saying, so there's some of the things that we're looking at when you're talking about a private road. So I'm not ready to vote either way on it. I'm just giving you my history and opinion on it, that there's some complications to turning something private. And Ms. Cazzo alluded to the fact that sooner or later, your constituents are coming back to you. It don't matter whether the state got it, the federal government got it, or Uncle Joe got it, okay? They're coming to you because you represent them and they got a bad road. We know the dysfunction of a decent number of homeowners associations, or the lack of maturity of that homeowners association. So whatever you do moving forward, let's make sure we got all our I's dotted and our T's crossed, because one thing is educating the homeowners and the people that buy into it that it's private. And at some point, they and the rest of the homeowners there are gonna have to bear the burden of that road, unless you got it on their tax roll with a dedicated to where they can't touch it, or the homeowner president, that's the president now, can't misspend it, and build a boulevard on Joe Street and leave Bob Street alone, you know what I mean? So you're creating another little government inside there, so thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cazzo.
Yeah, that was another concern of mine, Randy. Thank you for pointing that out. I mean, I don't think homeowners associations are typically holding hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you're talking about some serious risk, not to impugn the citizens of Ascension Parish in any way. But all it takes is one person who's got fingers in there that feels like he needs, to pay his kid's college tuition, and the next thing you know, somebody has taken inappropriately the money in that's sitting there for roads. The one thing we know is not going to happen, and I think this is something we can mention to these developers. We know that if it's sitting in a parish account, but committed to that road, that it's not going to be spent anywhere else. Can't be.
Right.
Ms. Gwen or any other CFO is going to allow money to be moved from one account to the other. So I really think we need to find a way. Now, I know this is done deal. It's passed, we voted on it, and this is what we've got, is private roads or IDDs. But I think I'm scared of how many of these folks are choosing that private road route. And my last question about this is, when they choose the private road route, can they put up a fence and a gate? And consequently, it's a gated community.
They can, yes.
Okay. Any other, Councilman Johnson?
Jerome, what do you got in here includes inflation factors. What are you using for your inflation factor?
.75% per year for the 20-year duration.
Where does that number come from?
I think it was just an estimate that we created.
And then I see on your last page, you got a note at the bottom of it on table 3 about assuming the full 15 mil collections first 3 years as the project is built out, reduce millage thereafter.
Right.
And so you're assuming that at year 20, it's It's only gonna cost $212,250 to overlay that road and do what you were talking about.
Right. Yeah, what you're seeing on the balance side of the equation here is that we're accumulating funds, and at the end of the 20-year period, after we expended the funds, including $154,000 to do the major work on the road, we are gonna have $57,000 left in the account. And one of the things that we didn't wanna do is overcharge the property owners, so we're trying to, so the first 3 years, we're assuming we're gonna charge the maximum, which is 15 mils. And then from year 4 to year 20, we reduced it to 7 mils, right? So you as a council have the ability to adjust the millage per year. So if we do see that we need some additional funds in a particular year, that maybe there was some major road work that needed to occur, we can raise the millage in the subsequent years above the 7 as to what we estimated, not to exceed 15.
So that lends two questions. So somebody's gotta be watching it to
Yes,
see that before the road needs to get resurfaced or what have you, that there's enough money in the account to cover the cost of doing whatever repairs need to be done to it. And the second question is, so what if there's not enough money in the account to cover the repairs? What do you do then?
well, we're gonna have to go into the parish coffers because we're limited as to how much we can collect.
I thought within the ordinance that wasn't allowed.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember reading that, but I'll double check that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have any further
One thing I
questions?
should add is that, as Councilwoman Castle said, the money for each district is gonna be going into a separate account. And there can be no commingling of funds from one district to another district. So those monies are gonna be set aside for that one subdivision.
Yeah, it's our hope that most developers would choose the IDD. The goal of this was we had been taking roads into our system for years without a way to pay for it. And that money came from the general fund. Anytime something had to be done, it came from the general fund, and more roads meant less and less money to go around.
Right.
Yeah, and so this was a way to have any new subdivision basically pay for its own road maintenance
Correct.
over the course of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 8, Department Report, Mike Enlow.
Good evening. Our 2019 road maintenance project is really our big project that's ongoing right now. Work began on, I think it was beginning of the beginning of June. Is when everything started up pretty good. I've listed below all the roads that we've assigned on task 1, along with the money amounts that each is gonna take, the money amounts that will take to do the work that, we are anticipating to do on each one of the roads. We do anticipate issuing a task 2. We're still trying to narrow down what exactly we're going to include on task 2, so I haven't listed those roads just yet, but we will, task 2 will be the second and last task associated with this contract. So we can anticipate between $800,000 and $900,000 worth of work on that task as well. We just haven't ironed out which roads we'll be able to fit on that task. So hopefully by next meeting, I will have a finalized list as well as what work will be done on each road to close out this contract. The other contract that we are looking forward to this year is as we speak, it's being signed and executed, and that's our payment preservation contract. It will also be executed on a task-driven basis. We anticipate there to be also 1 to 3 tasks, depending on how much work we can get done on each task. I've identified a couple of areas that, with your help, we've identified throughout the parish that are candidates for the types of treatments we have in this contract. And you can see them listed below, and I encourage all of you guys to please give me any areas in your council, in your districts that you may think of. We can always go look at it, and the worst that can happen is we say, no, it's too far gone for us to be able to utilize this contract on this road. But we have open-minded about it all. Would love to hear whatever suggestions you might have. At least get us out in the field and looking at those roads so that we can make a plan for the roads. If we can't do any kind of payment preservation type work with it, we'll at least have a future plan on when we'll have to reconstruct it from that point. So please, by all means, please contact me with any areas y'all have in mind. That's about it as far as new contracts. Of course, I've included in this report the updated reports we get from DOTD, and that's your next attachment. And the areas highlighted with yellow are the projects that they have going on that are kind of have active work going on within those projects. We do have a few projects that are in our area that I didn't highlight, mainly because they've all finished and it's just a matter of red tape for them to actually close them out, or it's just in the assembly phase. They don't actually have any construction type work going on them, so I didn't highlight those. But if you like to take a minute and look through those, that way I can hopefully answer any questions you might have. I do want to mention that that y'all had asked last meeting about the 431 Gold Place intersection improvements, and there was some talk about the mass arms being incorrect, and y'all were right. They were incorrect sizes, so they did get the corrected sizes in, and they have moved forward. They're actually moving forward with construction right now. Good. So I did want to mention too, I when I was talking about the tasks on the 2019 road maintenance project we have going on, I did want to mention we had talked about doing Laurel Ridge Road first. However, we realized once we got people out there and equipment out there, just how much heavy truck traffic there is going back and forth all day. So with the help of Councilman Kluwat and the residents out there, we've been able to contact, the dirt pit owners and the trucking companies. And I think we have, everybody's willing to work with each other and coordinate with one another. And I think we have a plan moving forward. We're anticipating actually starting work on Laurel Ridge on the 19th, so it would be 2 weeks from today, that we're planning on actually equipment on the ground, people started working, that kind of thing. So I know we've had a lot of phone calls because people are afraid that we just kind of threw our hands up and gave up and moved on, but that's not the case at all. We just need a little bit of time to work with everybody and get the notice out in time, and work especially with the dirt pit owners and trucking owners and those peoples to make sure we didn't hurt their business as well as they weren't hurting our construction progress. So I did want to go back to that and mention that. I meant to mention that when I first started talking and then ran away from myself. So I did want to go back and mention that. So I do want to say thank you to all the residents for their patience, as well as Councilman Kluwat. His help, he's been a tremendous help as well with getting everything coordinated. Sorry. So with that, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the state projects as I was talking, or if you want me to give you a few more minutes, I'll be happy to.
Does anybody have any questions? Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
Yeah, the striping project, Casey, has it started on,
Let's see. Is that the multi-parish striping project you're talking about?
yeah. Yeah, Panama, Dago, Summerfield, Bill Morgan, and Royal Palm.
You're talking about no, sir. The parish roads, those, we have not started striping on those just yet. The ones that you're speaking of, I know, Bill Morgan, specifically, we were hoping to do at the end of last task, but we ended up closing that out. But I know that as soon as their stripers become available and they finish the construction work up to a point where they can do the striping all at one time, I think that's what they're anticipating on doing. They usually like to pay the stripers one mobilization fee so that they can get out there and do it all at one time and then get back off of the project. If it's an emergency type of situation, we certainly can ask them to move it out. But unless it needs to be, immediately worked on, we usually let them do it towards the end. So if there's something that you feel is an emergency, please let me know, and I can.
That's just a couple factors. No lighting, and it's very dark out there, so if you could kind of speed them up, I'd
Sure.
appreciate it.
On all of them, or
Please.
a specific one?
Yeah, all of them,
it?
please.
Okay, yeah, then I can I'll talk to him about moving them up then.
Sure.
Okay, do we have any, Councilman Lambert?
Mike, could you give us an update on Tiggy, where we at, where we kind of, you and I talked a little bit earlier?
Do we have any more questions? I just want to make sure on the
Yeah.
state projects, we'll finish up with the state projects. Do we have anything else on the state projects? Okay, good. I just want to keep things one at a time.
And that, I think, I do have the normal pavement management update in there as well. If you want to look at their work too. Other than that, I can let Mike take the microphone. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll tell you what, I'll answer your question, and then I want to give the mic to Brian Harmon, who's working on our
Okay,
traffic calming
that's fine.
procedures and ordinance. But Tiggy is the same as last month. We're in a halt status with our engineer. They're looking at little tweaks and whatnot to try to see if we can minimize some of the right-of-way impact that we initially briefed the residents on. So we're hoping that goes well. But as far as they're not progressing forward.
Does that look likely that we can cut back some?
A little bit here and there. I think it depends on, the start, where they start at 621, and they have to get some deflections out. A lot of other technical stuff that I'm not really up to snuff on, but if they can make it work and we can live with it, meaning we can maybe give them some design exceptions and the road still operates safely, it could minimize some of the impact.
And far as data research we was looking for as far as crash data,
Yeah.
is there something we can provide to the residents, what we have now?
Yeah, I can go ahead and send that out. I still have not been able to set up a meeting with LTAP to really discuss it with them, and they're the ones that create or put together the raw data and assemble it for the municipalities to use in making decisions like we made on Tiggy and all the other Move Ascension projects. So, but I feel comfortable sending that spreadsheet or document out to you all, and you can disseminate it to everyone on the that's interested in it. So,
Do you have contacts for most people as far as email? The majority of them.
Yeah, there looks to be a good bit on there, and then I can go back to our meeting agenda. I think we had,
Forward it to them.
right, yeah.
Okay.
I can get that to them, so.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, go ahead.
I just want to mention, Councilman Dawson asked us for an updated monthly schedule for construction on the 2019 maintenance project. So we do have a stack. We didn't get it built into the report, but there is some hard copies that Darla brought. If any of y'all are interested in it, she has enough for the committee, so I just wanted to mention that to you.
I'll take it after. You don't have to do it now, unless somebody else wants it now.
Later's fine.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, real quick, Brian Harmon is here with Sigma Consulting. They are the consultant we've hired to develop a traffic calming procedures manual that, for neighborhood roads and for our local roads, our collectors and whatnot, other parish roads. They're gonna provide a procedure, like I said, and our hope is to bring it to you all, to get put in an ordinance so that we actually have something to use as a technical basis to determine what needs we have in some of those areas. So if Brian would come up. Brian.
So there you go, behind you. Good afternoon, council members, or committee members. I guess the Tigger Road question was kind of a good segue into traffic calming. Traffic calming is really it's a process that you're dealing with safety issues and roadway improvements, mobility, moving traffic, and kind of quality of life. You know, so you got residential subdivisions and people who are concerned. You got kids and bikers and walkers and whatever on the street. So you've got to kind of draw a line between, you know, what is what can be built, what should be considered. The whole traffic calming process typically rolls back to the community. You want the people who are impacted or who feel that they have a quality of life issue that's got to be faced to make the recommendations or requests to the public to make whatever changes that may be necessary. So with that in mind, what we've been doing in the development of the manual is, one, we needed to review current best practices. You got Federal Highway Administration, you've got ITE, which is the Institute of Traffic Engineers, you got APWA. All of them have worked closely to pull together documents, do pilot studies. There's been a lot of projects over about the last 15, 20 years. So a lot of the bugs have been worked out. Details are in place. So we've been compiling a lot of that information. You've got desk references for things associated with speed control compared to crash control. There are two different situations that you're faced with. So we've been compiling all that information. We've begun to put together the process for applications for the public to be able to submit to the city and to the parish. We've been looking at, you know, what is the process that you want to put forward. That's something that working through Public Works and you, the council, are going to have to decide. Will we receive requests from the public, you know, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually? You know, what kind of polling district will there be? You know, do you have people who are on a specific street who's looking for traffic calming? And if you do something on this street, is traffic going to move to the street next to them? So how far of a district are you going to have? What is the requirements? Is it 100%? Is it a super majority? Is it 60% of the voters? Those are some things that have to be discussed. Is it going to be a process put in place that on an annual basis, y'all budget, you know, kind of feed money to help move these things forward? Sometimes you've got, it could be a combination of the quality of life, but also a few safety things that you want to slow traffic down. Is it a destination? Is it a school? Is it a library? So you want to look at potentially, you know, speed tables or some sort of deflections. You want to, long, straight streets are your problem. You know, that's where people speed. People are going to drive where and as fast as they're most comfortable with. You'll hear people referring to this 85% percentile value, and that's governs the speed. So we've got to look at, through this traffic studies, you're going to have to look at that, decide what best fits the situation, and then decide what are you going to do. So kind of I was getting into more detail than where we are. Our goal is actually to have a draft manual, hopefully to Michael within about the next 2 weeks. At that point, we'll begin to sit down and really start talking about some of the specifics I just talked about in terms of what is your districts, how will it be paid for, you know, when will they receive it, what support can Public Works provide. You know, some things are just striping, some things are, you know, you can build the speed tables and some of those things. So there's a cost savings that can be implemented if chosen. So that's just some of the things that y'all as a council are going to have to consider. Take on any questions you may have.
I have a question. I know we have a lot of families here tonight that have a situation, it's almost regarding sight lines. Does traffic calming look at that? I mean, they have problems getting out of their driveways and off the road because a slight curve, people can't even see. Is that something that can be accompanied?
Almost every situation with traffic calming can be different, or there's a combination of things. So that's why the whole process is the public comes to you or comes to Public Works and says, these are the problems that I perceive that we're having, or I as an individual am having, you know, and they should try and address. Is it vegetation? Is it a curve? Is it stuff that's in the neighbor's yard? You know, but sight distance is an issue. That's something that has to be considered. So the different solutions could vary depending on what the problems may be. Crashes, are they rear-end crashes, side crashes? Is it speeding, driving into ditches? All those things come into play.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
While we're talking on
Councilman
that, the city of Gonzales on Pepero Road, I don't know if any of y'all have traveled that area. They have a light that is 35 miles per hour, and you get to it, and it tells you that you're speeding. And if you go under the speed limit, it tells you thank you. And everybody, I travel that road every morning to go to work, and I'm behind cars that I see it red, meaning they're speeding, and all of a sudden it comes back down, you know. They're respecting that thank you, you know, so it's something to think about. I got John looking into
Yeah.
some pricing on it.
I look at about 5,000 a pop.
Yeah.
I saw. I was behind you the other day and said, "Whoa, cowboy!" I'm teasing.
Here's what I had to
Hey,
write
I have caught myself, yes, I have.
I have too.
I have thought
Actually, I
myself.
looked into those. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just that reinforcement of you going the speed limit, green, thank you, it's
That's
amazing
part-
how that works.
That's part of the whole process. You have simple things from just signage and striping to enforcement to, you know, your speed cameras and the trailers that you can move around from subdivision to subdivision. And those are things, again, going back to budgetary constraints and things that you want to try and implement. You know, you can put those out long-term. They don't necessarily provide long-term solutions because typically you're going to move them around. But they do work.
Great. Thank you very much. We look forward to your full report
Appreciate it.
and getting this into motion.
All right.
Okay, moving on. Item number 9, resolution in support of moving the Ashland-St. Landry Connector project to construction. I got my name on that. I just had it somewhere too. What's that? There it is. What I'll do is I'll read it. And I think it'll be self-explanatory. It's a resolution in support of the Ashland Road Connector. Whereas the Ascension Parish Governing Authority appreciates the parish president's efforts to maximize our limited road construction budget, and whereas the Ascension Parish Governing Authority appreciates the parish president's efforts to obtain contributions from the industries that will directly benefit from this road construction, and whereas the Ascension Parish Governing Authority recognizes that many citizens from all over the parish will benefit from this project, and whereas the Ascension Parish Governing Authority additionally recognizes that the benefits of this project include, but are not limited to, decreased traffic on Highway 30, improved evacuation routes, and allowing our citizens more time with their family instead of time spent in traffic, and whereas the Ascension Parish Governing Authority recognizes the contributions already made to this project by BASF and the tax revenue provided by industry in the area, and whereas the Ascension Parish Governing Authority desires that the Ashland Road Connector be constructed as soon as possible, now therefore be it resolved that the Ascension Parish Governing Authority, without any equivocation, urges the parish president to authorize the commencement of construction of the Ashland Road Connector immediately. I brought this up because this is a road that we think is ready for construction. The parish president has worked tirelessly to obtain contribution. What a lot of people may not realize is we get about $8 million a year for roads. That goes for everything you've heard today is road construction, traffic calming, road improvements, potholes, overlays. $8 million doesn't go that far. And the parish president has really worked hard to get contribution to this. But at the same time, BASF has donated the property for this road. We've got it cleared, we've got it grubbed. We think this is an important road because I know some of the people on our council actually work and would use this road. Several people, I know in my neighborhood, driving from Prairieville and would use this road. This is something that we think is important. I'm putting this resolution forward to get some, hopefully we'll get this thing under construction by the end of the year. And I don't know if we can get it completed by the end of the year, but with it being cleared and grubbed and ready to go, we're asking that we move forward on this. Do we have any questions or any? Councilman Kluat. Oh, you sure did.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Once again, I want to expand on what you said, Aaron. Parish president, in many of our discussions and trying to get together with industry and he's worked tirelessly for well over a year trying to working with different associations and working with industry to get somebody to pony up to the plate there. And it hasn't happened yet. Industry has a different reflection on the fact that they have a major tax basis here, but they have a major presence here. There's some different things that, everything changes, and I'll change in 4 months. And everything continues to change. Basically within the last 2 years, we saw the development and the changes within the ITEP program for industry. We saw the state legislature impose a tax that on the medium to large industry right now has an annual burden of somewhere between $2.5 and $4 million to each one of them. And they've changed management. Probably about 4 or 5 of the larger industry facilities in the parish have changed management over the last year and a half. And, you got different management. It's just like having a different political regime in. It's just no different. They're running a business, and they're trying to look and see where they're at. And I think the parish president has been working tirelessly, and so I want to re-emphasize that he wants that road built as bad as anybody, because unless he signs up Thursday, he's on limited time, just like me. And so I'd like to see it before I die. But anyway, it's a good thing. I think that this alternate route to get people back to the interstate at Highway 44 and go south, or go north, whichever one. If they want to go north and come back and get into the Highway 30 traffic, that's up to them, But it's there, and I would like to yield a little bit of my time. I got 50 seconds left to the parish president, if you don't mind.
I'll give him as much time as he needs. Thank you, Parish President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kluat and Transportation Committee. As you know, we started this project a long time ago. In-house, we cleared the property. We did the drainage work. It's engineered, correct, Mike? Yes. And what happened, the manager at BASF changed when we were in negotiations with, with Tom Ura on it. And then when we brought him everything, then he left 2 weeks later, and now there's a new manager. But long story short, y'all give me authority to bid the road out, I'll do that. I will still talk with them. The chamber is involved a little bit too also. It is somewhat of an economic development deal too, because when we build that road, there's going to be some economic development on there, I would think. So anyway, I'm ready to bid it out. Y'all just give me the permission.
Motion to approve the resolution.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Do we have any discussion?
One discussion.
Councilman Lambert.
Just want to make sure it's approved through legal as far as the resolution. There's no issues there before the council.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Any objections? None, and please do. Do we need a motion, though, for you to bid that out? I don't believe we do. I think you have the authority to. So we can get moving on that. That's great. Okay, moving on to item number 10, approval to add E. Hamilton Street in the city of Gonzales to the 2019 overlay
Motion.
package. We have a
Second.
motion, and we have a second. Any discussion? Councilman Lambert.
Just a question, this is the city of Gonzales. Why are we
Correct.
resurfacing it?
We usually once or twice a year for the city of Gonzales, and then we've also done the city of Sorrento We use the the Parish Transportation Fund Act, which is state funds that get dispersed to all the parishes based on the amount of people in the parish. I think we get around 790 to 820, depending on population. So that's used to continue asphalting or doing maintenance on the roads within the city limits. And I think typically we've always tried to help the city out and with one road every year or so.
Appreciate it. Just want to let the public know. that's
Absolutely.
why-
Yes, sir.
Why we're doing it. Thank you.
Any objection? None, so moved. Item number 10, approval of stop
One,
sign.
one, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
sorry,
On-
Mr. President.
Also on that road, you know, the new courthouse we're building, we're looking at doing a connector to the back, to that road right there, sort of coincide, very good.
That'd be great. Okay. Item number 11, approval of stop sign on Brown Road, and it should say Brown Junior Road. That was a typo instead of Brown 3 Road. Should say Brown Junior Road. This is a stop sign in my district. We've had a lot of work done on this. It says sight lines. We do have some speakers on it. So I'd like to first call up Ms. Beatsy Plaisance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. I have some pictures. I'm not sure how to use the screen, but I'll try to see.
If you put them up there and.
Okay. This is picture number 1. This is an approach. We're here for Brown and Brown Jr. because we have a hill that seems to be a safety issue. We've been out there for 40 years, and since they put the new subdivision in, has become more 300 cars added to our traffic, and we just feel that this would be the thing to help us the best, because we have children that play, we have people that walk, we have bike riders, stray dogs, which we shouldn't have, but we do have it. And this is the approach to the hill, and this is on top of the hill, and as you can see, everything to the right-hand side cannot be seen. You can see where the road takes a turn. My driveway is to the right of the hill, and there's a side street, which is Brown 3, and there's some other driveways beyond that, and none of that is visible. And whether it's speeding or not speeding, it's still at 25 miles an hour coming down an impact of less than 100 feet. You don't know what could possibly happen, and I would hate to see something happen to one of the children out there. This is the driveway where I don't know if you can see where a car is trying to come out. That is my driveway, and I'm trying to come out of my driveway, and I still cannot see anything. I have to get, as you can see, into the middle of the road before I can find clearance. Any company that I have, or my husband and myself, we have to literally get out in the road to get on the road. We have, as I said, we have children that ride all over. We have, we've been out there in this particular spot for 40 years. We have seen many accidents happen. We've called Sheriff's Department. They could come out, but they can't spend 24/7. We understand that. And Brown Road, the side street, as you can see on the last picture that I did, it still can't even be seen. And I don't know how to explain it, but every time, we have an 83-year-old neighbor that cuts her own ditches. And she refuses to give it up. She's almost been hit 3 times. The kids riding their bikes back and forth, I yell at them all the time to stop running up and down the road without looking for the cars. And I know everybody says 3-way stop signs aren't a good thing. I do understand that. But if you have your spouse or your neighbor or anybody or children running around with their life that is in danger, how would you feel if they were there and you see something happen to them, you can do nothing about it? Is a life worth a price of a stop sign? Can you live with that if you vote this down? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Plaisance. Mr. Donald Plaisance.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As y'all heard, my name is Donald Plaisance, and my address is 38241 Brown Road, Prairieville, Louisiana. I have a couple of pictures here I'd like to show y'all too. Thank you very much. Okay, that's the first one. That's me standing in my driveway, looking up the hill. And that's Brown Road, the road you see. You can see the curve on the top of the road to the left. If you look at the top of the road, that's the first one. And the second one is me standing on the edge of the road on my driveway, looking up at the same one. As you can see on that road, on that picture, right about here, when I'm cutting grass there, I got a bad view of that hill, and I got to be very careful. I almost got hit a couple of times when I run my lawnmower on the road, and then of course come down. It's dangerous, but I guess the good Lord's been blessing me. But I got to be careful cutting grass. And like my wife talked about my neighbor, she had the same problem. When I go fishing in the morning, I don't have no problem. But when I come home in the afternoon, I got to call my wife if she's home for her to come outside to help me back the boat up in the yard. And if she's not home, of course, I got to do it by myself. So a lot of times, if I see something coming, I'll make them sign to come by. But if I don't see them, you got to pull the boat up before you turn it. And a lot of times when I'm fixing to turn it, here comes another car trying to come between my boat and the road. And so I got to get out and come back up a little bit, let me get my boat in, then you can come by. So it happens a pretty good bit. They never hit me yet, thank God. My wife covered just about everything else I was going to cover. I just want to show you all those pictures. And the last thing I'm going to leave y'all with is, she also talked about the policemen coming out, and they do. They come out a lot, and they do a good job. But like she said, they can't be there 24/7, but that stop sign would be there. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Linda Zernak, and am I pronouncing that correctly? You can let me know when you get up here. I didn't think so, but
It's Linda Ezernak.
Ezernak.
Ezernak, yeah. And I do have a picture too. Which way do you do this? Oh, so helpful, thank you. Thank you. Let's see which way. This just shows another angle, and this is the Brown Junior that we're talking about, where the kids come out. And there is a car up at the top, and when children come out from there, they're either riding a bike, or walking and talking, not paying attention really. You might get a glance to see there's a car coming, but until that car gets on top of that hill, you really cannot see it, especially if the sun is like this. And I took that one this morning, early in the morning. Now, most times you'll see kids out late in the afternoon. They're heading toward the back, going to the new subdivision, Hidden Farms. And, there'll be a group of them a lot of times, or maybe just one and two. But if they're riding bikes, they're coming around that corner. And they'll glance, but they don't stop. And these are 7, 8, 10-year-olds. And so, we just feel like, for safety reasons, that it would just be better to have those cars come up and stop rather than just keep going through. Sometimes they're texting, sometimes they're on their phone. Sometimes they're looking at the pasture because there might be something going on in the pasture. And by the time they see a small child standing on that corner, it's going to be too late. So everybody pretty much said what I said, so I've just kind of going off the cuff here. But we just feel like this would be a good solution, you know, to a problem that's over the time of the past 3 years, we've accumulated approximately over 300 cars coming up and down Brown Road, going back to the new subdivision. And at times when the kids are out, it's just really, really dangerous, or when people are outside cutting their yard. And we'd appreciate your consideration in giving us this three-way stop.
Thank you, Ms. Esernak. I pronounced that right that time.
Yes, you did. Thanks.
Okay, we have no more speakers.
Mr.
We have a
Chairman,
motion.
Second.
can I say one thing?
Yes, Mr. President.
I've looked at this situation for many years before the subdivision was there. Now, since the subdivision, it has really gotten a lot worse. And even though there are speeders, it's not about stopping the speed, and it's about actually stopping the cars for safety,
Yes.
period.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. We
Can
have
I
a second.
comment,
Councilwoman
Mr. Earl?
Cazzo, yes.
Yeah, in my community, a three-way stop was put in on a very high-trafficked road at the end of Seabro and Bluff. And it has been a wonderful addition to our community. I will tell you that, and I caution the folks, because I suspect that we'll authorize the placement of this three-way stop. Doesn't always mean people are gonna stop. And it becomes a hazard in a big way if they don't. So I would encourage the folks in the community to talk to their children about the fact that not everybody's gonna stop. So they need to still be cautious when they approach that area, because that three-way can give you the sense that everybody's gonna stop, and they don't. But it has reduced the problems in my community, and I'm very grateful for its presence there. That was a DOTD issue, and so getting them to agree to keep it there was a little more complicated. But I certainly believe and we intend to support tonight placing that stop sign there.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to mention to Mr. Plaisance that we typically don't provide fishing partner service at the parish, but I'd be glad to help him back the boat up if he needs to. With vacation time, I'll use vacation time.
Sounds
You'd
like a
probably
plan.
go fishing too if he asked.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at.
No objections, so moved. Item number 12, adjournment.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. So adjourned. Thank you all very much.